Hi, Vogue. I'm Ariana Grande, and this is my life in looks, well, some of my life so far. Some of so far in looks of my life. Let's begin. Here we are. Okay, this was my first red carpet ever. It was for Fantastic Mr. Fox, I believe. I do remember leaving and being like, why did I go to this? It was a beautiful movie. I had a great time, but why am I here? And why do people go to things that they're not in? Kind of discovering what red carpet culture and promo and all of that was. I had just started working as an actress. I was on Nickelodeon, hence my red hair, which I signed over to Nickelodeon as a part of getting the role. They had to change me so that there weren't too many brunettes on the show. But the dress I love. It's so cute. And I felt really excited about my big bow cuff. It was an interesting time, I guess, when it comes to my personal style because I didn't necessarily love the red hair, but I loved the character I was playing. So I had to figure out where Kat and I could meet in the middle. And I guess it's here. I guess it's this. Oh my God. Okay, this I love so much. I actually really love this episode. This is me as Kat Valentine. This, I think, was the episode Terror on Cupcake Street. I loved the episodes where we were all together, where the whole ensemble was stuck in some situation together. That was when we had the hardest laughs and the best times. And yeah, I loved this candy onesie. These are my bushy eyebrows. Look, I was figuring it out here. This was like right in between when they were arched, and then I started to straighten them right around this era, actually, 'cause I like them that way. I know you don't, but I love them. I'm so sorry. I hope that's okay. This is my first album cover. This was yours truly, shot by Jones Crow. I really loved this sort of dramatic George Hurl vintage lighting, black and white. I've always been a vintage girly, and I've always loved fashion and art from the 50s and 60s. That's kind of my sweet spot. I used to always close my eyes in pictures. Now I sometimes close my eyes in pictures, but I used to always do it, I think, 'cause I was so anxious about being perceived or seen or judged. I wished at that time that I could have just been a floating voice and nothing, and never visible ever. Each album cover really has to be informed by the music and also by where I am at in life. For this one, it was my introduction to the world, so I wanted it to kind of just be very simple. There were a few other options for this album cover. This was my favorite always, but I remember the label liked a couple of different ones, and this ended up being the fan favorite, I believe, as well. And this was kind of my first moment with the label I Love You Guys, where I was like, told you so. Scream Queens. I remember I was on the honeymoon tour and I blocked off 1 week to shoot this for Ryan Murphy, and it was such a fun, amazing experience. I had the best time of my life. I actually wasn't offered many acting projects at the time, but I was so excited when this one came in. A, because I missed acting so much, and B, because I love horror. But I was so happy to die in the first episode because so many of my favorite iconic horror movie roles die in the first 10 minutes. I mean, hello, it's Drew Barrymore in Scream. So I felt honored to die immediately in Scream Queens. And what a death. Chanel No. 2 forever.
Penny.
This is me as Penny Pingleton in Hairspray Live. The first show I ever saw on Broadway was Beauty and the Beast, but I was very little. The first one I remember would probably be Thoroughly Modern Millie. I loved that musical more than life itself. I used to sing Gimme Gimme every single day in my room. Sutton Foster. I remember that sparking my interest and made me want to go see as many different shows as I could, and I fell in love with them all. And one of them also was Hairspray. I was a huge Hairspray fan, and that's what made me want to join the cast of Hairspray Live and do this production. Oh, interesting story about this. My character Penny chewed a lot of bubble gum, and I had to chew gum constantly for all the rehearsals, and my voice, I was not singing the way I could usually sing, and I could not figure it out until the day before the live show, and it was the bubble gum. There's aspartame in sugar-free bubble gum, which was great for blowing bubbles, but it was destroying my cords. And that was kind of one of the only times in my life, knock on wood, that I've ever had that kind of vocal health malfunction. Yeah, now we do aspartame-free. Ah, here we are. This was my first time at the Met Gala, wearing Vera Wang. This was 2018, Heavenly Bodies Met Gala. And I remember we were on a creative call, trying to figure out what it should be. We were just talking about the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and we decided to put it all over the fabric and make it into a dress. There were no other options from that moment on. Law, and I were just kind of like, that has to be it. That is it. Walking up the stairs of the Met Gala, I remember feeling excited. I really love fashion, so this was like kind of my first time being brave enough to do something like this because I used to have a lot of anxiety around red carpets. I remember feeling so proud of myself for going and so proud of the look. I thought, wow, this is a piece of art. I'm so thankful to be wearing this dress. And this hair bow was one of my favorite parts. Even when I went home afterwards and I got in my pajamas, I kept the hair bow on for as long as I could. My experience the first time I went to the Met Gala was very different from the second time, which was actually quite recently. It was 2 years ago, maybe, and I got to perform as well. Performing was so much fun. Getting to rehearse and put that show together with our entire creative team that was there, it was really a special experience. The most recent time I went, I got to wear Loie by Jonathan Anderson. It was a mother-of-pearl bodice. Then I got to perform in Margiela by John Galliano, that was my favorite thing I've ever worn in my life. Yeah, it felt amazing to perform in it, too. I loved that the bodysuit was hand-painted all these different shades of blue and green and lavender and little streaks of yellow. It was just the most incredible. And, of course, the iconic Margiela tabby. Performing in those was a treat. I love my tabbies. I wear tabby ballet flats every day of my life, so to perform in them was a first and a treat, and I hope to do it again. It was also the first time that Cynthia and I sang together in front of the world, and we sang When You Believe by Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. And I believe that my performance is like the most that people have ever seen of what happens inside the thing when you get in there. That's it. All it is someone sings, and then everyone has a good time and goes home. This is from the God is a Woman music video. I am naked. I am painted. This was a really fun music video directed by Dave Meyers, and it took us a long time to get the treatment exactly where it needed to be because I thought there were many different beautiful vignettes that we could explore. But this one was one of my favorites. I loved the visual of laying in the middle of this painted looks like a vagina, and I really loved that. And this can't go anywhere, can it? Who cares? And it was a beautiful way of celebrating femininity. And the shape of what we've been discussing kind of just happened naturally on set. It was kind of meant to be. As they were adding the paint around me, it just looked so vaginal, and I loved it. It was fabulous. I said, don't shy away from it. Keep it coming. Moving on. Okay, wow. 2018, I am leaving my old apartment in New York. This was a very strange time in my life. I was processing a lot. And I've always wanted to hide away in something really cozy, but I remember that the boots still made me feel. I genuinely at the time did not have the mental energy to consider clothing. So the easiest thing for me was to throw on a sweatshirt and a boot, and that was how it happened. I'm sorry to say it. This is just the honest truth. This was Coachella, 2019. I was headlining. This was designed by Michael No, and I loved this deep plum shiny, almost like wine-colored version of this costume. We had it in pink as well, and I wore that on the Sweetener tour. The set list for Coachella was pretty much the same as the Sweetener tour, except we added some special guests. I remember I had NSYNC come out with me, which was really cool. We did Tearin' Up My Heart, and I got to do the original choreography with them, which was the dream of my life. The instinct of it all came about because I truly believe that they are the best boy band. I reached out, not knowing what would come of it, and they showed up, which was unbelievable to me. It was really fun. I love those gentlemen so much, and JC is the heart of NSYNC. I mean, I love them all. Of course I love them all, but to me, the sound of his voice is, oh my God, it's just so special. Oh, here it is. Oh my goodness. My first Vogue cover. This was shot in my hometown, Boca Raton, Florida, by Annie Leibovitz. And it was a beautiful day. It was a hilarious day because I was so nervous that I kept making the joke that it was Toulouse's big day. My dog is Toulouse. And I kept saying, it's Toulouse's big day. It's his Vogue cover. And I remember Annie Leibovitz looking at him and saying, Oh my God, this dog is beautiful. Excuse me, can we please get him on the cover, please? And I was like, how is this real life? This is the best thing ever. So I got to share my first full cover with Toulouse, who's my sweet love. He's like the light of my life. I love him so much. I was barely allowed to wear any makeup, and at the time it really scared me. But now, looking back, gosh, I'm so proud of this. I love it now more than ever. It was very meaningful to me, though, that it came to my childhood home and shot in my very first recording setup ever, which is where I learned how to produce vocals, and where I used to write little songs when I was 12, 11. All right, Grammys 2020. I'm wearing Giambattista Valli, styled by La Roche. We loved this so much. I loved the sort of pale blue-gray fluff cloud effect of it all. There were a few that we loved. That's actually why we wore a few in the same night, but I kind of wish I had just stayed in this the whole time because this was my favorite. I was semi-blonde for this. I had a little ombre, I guess you'd say, to a platinum ponytail. Okay, well, here's more recent. This is 2023, Wimbledon. I was a guest of Jonathan Bailey's. I'm wearing Ralph Lauren. Yeah, I just felt like being cozy, so I wore this long, fabulous little skirt and this cozy sweater and this hat and these very Ozzy and Tiffany glasses because they reminded me of the glasses they wear in Oz and the Elle, Frank Baum books in the original illustrations. This was also my first kind of public appearance, I guess, as a blonde. I do love being a blonde. I loved it, and I will love it again someday. And yeah, anyway, this is the 2024 Oscars. I'm wearing Giambattista Valli. This was my first Glinda-influenced carpet dress. I love this column shape. I love the big bubbly shawl and the train. It was kind of like the perfect amount of everything. We tried on a few different things for this, and this one definitely felt like the perfect choice for this moment because it felt like the perfect middle ground between me and Glinda. It was definitely an immediate, that's the one. Let's see what's next. Oh, this is season 49 of SNL. I was wearing a 1982 vintage Mugler that I purchased from Lily etc. This is one of my favorite vintage pieces in my archive. My favorite sketch from this episode would probably be Castrati. I really loved playing Lil Antonio. Of all the roles I've played in my life, I think he's changed me. I mean, I know life in 2 chapters, before and after Lil Antonio. Colin Jost, who was one of the writers on it,